I live with an angry, manic alcoholic, and things seem to be getting worse. Or perhaps it's that my tolerance and patience levels have diminished. But it's gotten to the point where not only am I affected by this, but also my family. Every day is like walking on eggshells, never knowing when the next bomb is going to go off, but you know it will. He's also had episodes of threatening suicide and not coming out of the room for days. When I suggest therapy, he poo-poos it and says he will change with diet and exercise and will go super extreme and fast for days, or even for a week. Sometimes he'll continue to drink beer while he's fasting, but not always. He's told me I'm useless, asked if I'm retarded, etc. I know that this is a dis-ease, and I'm trying to stick by him, but it's getting more and more difficult. I certainly do not find it acceptable to treat me and my sisters in an unloving way. We have been together for over 20 years, and I've never believed in giving up, but I don't want to live the rest of my life with this negative energy. How can I help him and myself?
Thank you for the question. It's a super important topic, subject matter. My heart goes out to you. It's an incredibly difficult situation, and knowing how to navigate it is one of the most fraught and emotionally challenging things I can possibly imagine. So first of all, I'm empathetic to your situation. You're in a very difficult spot, and I can't tell you what you should or should not do. You have to make those decisions for yourself. But perhaps I can give you a couple light posts here. And one is, first and foremost, you have to take care of yourself. You've got to figure out how to protect yourself and insulate yourself against his unhealthy behaviors. And it's not indulgent for you to do so. You shouldn't feel guilty for doing that. And in fact, it's of service to him for you to do so. The way that you can do that is to seek out Al-Anon. I think that you would find great solace in that program, to participate in a community of people who have experience going through exactly what you're going through right now, and understand that there are only so many things that you can control here. You can control your behavior. You can control your response to your spouse. But what you can't control is him or his behavior. So to the extent that you're trying to get him to change, you're in a situation in which that's very unlikely to occur. Hopefully, he will reach a point in his addiction where he will develop the willingness to try to get better. But from what you've written here, it doesn't sound like he's in that place right now. He is succumbing to the great obsession of every alcoholic, which is the effort to try to control your drinking. And he's going through the machinations and the experimentation to convince himself that he can do that, whether it's fasting or exercise. His pursuits in those regards are all in extremis. So it's clear that they're manifestations of the underlying disease that he has, which is addiction. And your ability to manage or control that will result in a lot of unhappiness on your part. So I think your focus needs to be placed on yourself, making sure that you're safe and healthy. Nobody should have to submit themselves to that kind of abuse, whether it's emotional or physical. I can't tell you whether you need to end the relationship or not. You need to make that decision for yourself. But I can tell you that you are valuable in this world, and nobody should be talked to in that regard. So take the steps that you need to take to protect yourself and your family members who are on the receiving end of this kind of abuse. There are resources available to you, even in the age of COVID. And again, that's where I think your priority needs to be. In terms of how you communicate with him and perhaps be of service to him, you can set healthy boundaries around what is and is not acceptable. You can tell him, look, if you speak to me that way, again, I'm going to leave, or whatever it is, whatever esteemable act you take on behalf of yourself to create that boundary, I think is important, and letting him know where that boundary exists so that if he disobeys it or transgresses it, then there will be a ramification or a repercussion. Whether that means you leave him or not, again, you have to figure out that for yourself. But I think establishing those boundaries is the first step in terms of letting him know that his behavior is not okay. And I think the more specific and concrete you can be around that, the better it is for yourself and for him. You can make suggestions. Hey, listen, I think you should go to treatment. You should go to detox. You should check out AA. You can make those suggestions, but it's important that you remain divorced from expectations as to whether he will avail himself of that advice, and also any attachment that you have to outcomes. If you have an expectation that he's going to get sober or he's going to do what you advise him to do, then I think you're setting yourself up for a lot of emotional woe. So it's fraught. It's very difficult. Especially with loved ones, because you can see the person beneath the disease and you are able to hold space for that individual, but sometimes they're just unable to see it for themselves. And in truth, you can't get an alcoholic sober. The alcoholic gets sober when the alcoholic develops the willingness to take the actions and the steps required to get sober. And that's a very personal journey. So as harsh as it may sound, this person might have to suffer greater repercussions, might have to be in more pain than he is in right now in order to hit that bottom and have that reconciliation for himself. You can make yourself available for him if and when he reaches that point, but you need to protect yourself emotionally and not make yourself available for all of the abuse and the unhealthy behavior that he is manifesting at the moment.
Yeah. Heavy. The only thing I can add is you said safe, making sure you're safe. And I can tell you from my previous reporting and things that I've learned is that physical abuse doesn't necessarily have to build up from like a push or a slap. You could be in danger already. And I don't want to make you hysterical or anything like that, but this kind of emotional abuse, you're already on a path that you don't want to be on. And so I would, I don't know if Al-Anon has domestic, I'm sure they do have like domestic abuse counseling recommendations, but I'd look into some domestic abuse hotlines that you can call.
Maybe we could put some resources up in the show notes for that.
And I would call someone ASAP.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting anything other than calling, and just make your own decisions on how you want to proceed. But you're already in a place that leads that could lead to a dangerous situation for yourself.
I think I would add that it's not. I can't diagnose another person as an alcoholic. This anonymous person is saying her husband is an alcoholic. She's diagnosing him as that. Maybe he perhaps admits it to her. I don't know. The diagnosis of alcoholism is something that only the alcoholic can diagnose for themselves. But if this person is an alcoholic, and it would appear that he is, these things don't tend to just get better. They get worse. The best case situation is they stay the same, but generally they degrade and devolve. And with that comes a notching up of the abuse and the unhealthy behaviors that circle around that. So short of an intervention or this person developing the willingness to get better for himself, this is going to continue to progress. And again, that just means that it's all the more important that you take care of yourself.